How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for 2 hours talking pro wrestling. We've got Brian Alvarez, Figure 4 Weekly here, and we were not going to have a guest today. Ken Shamrock is going to do the show next Tuesday, which we sort of hinted at yesterday, but that is confirmed, which is good because it's regarding just various things, including last night's television. And it's actually a lot of news to get to today as well, but we will start with last night's Raw show. Brian, why don't you give your thoughts of that?
I thought I think you pretty much mentioned this last night at the website, but it was like the first hour and 15 minutes of the show was like one long soap opera. And the thing that struck me was there were 3 matches in like the first hour, maybe first hour and 15 minutes actually, because they did the Linda Vince thing. And 2 of them involved the Big Show. And that should tell you a lot about the first half of that show. And I thought the Steve Regal, Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit match was pretty good from a storyline standpoint. The match really wasn't much because it was all about storyline. And I thought the main event was pretty damn good as well. And, you know, the Hardys, in the storyline, it was their big shot at the big time, and they had to step it up. But in the ring, they pretty much did it in real life and stepped it up. And the big angle was Lita giving Stephanie the moonsault for the pinfall. And I got to tell you that before I even watched this match, I got an email, and it was from somebody asking if Lita was going to be challenging Steve Austin for the title. And as I'm watching the show, and they're setting this up backstage with Lita and Vince McMahon, and Vince signs the match, I suddenly just thought, oh my God, they're going to do a 6-man, and Lita's going to pin Steve Austin, and I will never, ever watch wrestling again. But it didn't happen. She pinned Stephanie. But anyway, then they destroyed her afterwards and laid her out, and just pretty much gave Lita a tremendous beating. And I don't know, maybe she will challenge Steve Austin for the title on SmackDown, but I doubt it.
You know what I watched? I thought that the final segment of the show was really good, and it was really about the only segment of the show I thought that was that good. I was like, the thing, you know, the Austin Jim Ross angle on Thursday was tremendous, and I wouldn't have minded if they had, like, you know, clipped it up into about a 3-minute package, but to go on for, like, what was it, like 15 minutes, it was so too long watching that thing again. I mean, I just couldn't keep my interest, and then, you know,
it was also you just watch Vince and his facial expressions while he watched it back on TV.
Yeah, but I mean, they could show clips of it, and Vince could still make the same facial expressions. So we could save 12 minutes.
Yeah, but I don't know.
And they didn't show
of all the segments, I didn't mind that one as much as some of the others they could have done, because I thought that was a hell of a segment.
Oh, I loved the segment the first time. I just didn't really want. I mean, this is the total example though of they would have never done that 2 weeks ago. I mean, they would never do a repeat for 15 minutes. I mean, it's a totally different, the last 2 weeks of Raw, you can see a totally different mentality in that they're not afraid of losing viewers, and they will, you know, they'll do things a lot longer and do a lot less wrestling on the show, as obviously was the case as well. You know, the Linda segment, you know, there's something about. I guess I shouldn't try to bring any reality into it because there's no reality in this. But to me, okay, the character of Mr. McMahon, all right, and then forget about real life Vince and Linda McMahon. Has nothing to do with that. This is just character. Okay, the character of Mr. McMahon is someone. You know, it's like Linda McMahon is portrayed as this wonderful person. Okay, but you know what? If you're so wonderful, why would you be married to this guy except for the money? And then how wonderful can I find this woman and you know, all these great qualities if she's been married to this guy for 34 years?
For 34 years, as they keep saying.
You know, I mean, okay, up until the fallout of the Survivor Series, I mean, the TV announcer character of Vince McMahon really didn't have any repugnant qualities other than, you know, he's a TV announcer. But certainly the television character, Mr. McMahon, since 1998 has not been someone that, you know, that a great person who stands up for herself would want to be married to.
Well, that's why she wants a divorce.
Okay, after 3 years, she wants a divorce after being blatantly cheated on television. Now she wants a divorce.
After being made ill.
After being drugged.
You made me ill.
And drugged up, and all this. I mean, it's like
kept against
the will. I'm watching like the writers from Dallas from 20 years ago, you know, with Sue Ellen Ewing, but Sue Ellen Ewing, you know, because JR obviously Vince McMahon's character is totally based on. Did you ever see that show? You were probably too young to watch that show, did you?
Actually, I used to spend the night at my grandma's house all the time, and she would always be watching Dallas. So I didn't really watch much of the show, but I knew JR and all those guys.
Okay, because, you know, the Vince McMahon character is totally based on J.R. Ewing. I mean, I see, you know, the similarities are incredible. Actually, I used to say that before he did his character, too, but that's another story. That used to be what we said in the 80s. But anyway, but Sue Ellen Ewing, for most of that period, who kind of played the similar role as Linda McMahon, was certainly, I mean, she was portrayed as a very weak woman, alcohol problem. Later in the show, I mean, they sort of baby-faced her a little bit. But that was, when they baby-faced her, she really did divorce him. Well, anyway, so if Linda's going to do a storyline divorce, okay, that's one thing. But, okay, how is Linda and Vince going to get back together at the end unless Vince turns babyface, or she is so weak that she falls for his swerve like Deborah did a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're kind of digging a hole right now. It's like one of those things where, Vince has this thing in mind, well, now we'll do the divorce and I'll have to grovel for a while. But he's not actually thinking, okay, 3 months down the road, what's going to happen? Are we going to divorce? She gets half the money and goes to WCW? And what?
Yeah.
I think
somebody had a really funny letter. In fact, I should try to get it in just a second. But basically, the idea is they split the assets. Like Vince gets the XFL, WCW, and all of the and all the videotape library of the WBF.
That's a fair split.
But anyway, as far as the final segment of the show with the beating of Lita, when I watched it, it was like, I thought it was great heel heat, the way they did it, the way she laid on Matt to save Matt, and then they, instead of then they just beat the hell out of her, both Hunter and especially Steve Austin. I mean, so as a fan, I liked it, but then someone wrote me a letter and brought up the Tiffany Unick case, and all of a sudden I realized, if they dug themselves, I mean, the odds are 90% that this thing will be forgotten after a week, and usually it is. But the 10% where if the wrong person saw it, and it only takes one, they could be in a lot of trouble. And this man-on-woman violence right now is probably not the thing to do again. And if there is no trouble stemming from this, I think they should consider themselves lucky and not push it. And if there is, they dug themselves into the hole, because they did it. It's right there on their TV.
I think they clearly thought about it in advance, which is why they did the whole Spike Dudley Lita thing on Heat, because she beat him clean, and they showed clips of it on Raw. So I think they were trying to portray her as someone who wasn't like a weak, helpless woman, but was somebody that could actually beat a man, because she did, and they showed clips of it. So therefore, when she got beaten up by guys at the end of the show, it was kind of like she was one of the WWF wrestlers getting beaten up, as opposed to if, they dragged Deborah out there, somebody that had never been portrayed as a fighter or anything like that, and she was the one that got beat up. So I think they thought about it, but still, it's the whole thing with like the Vince Trish angle, where it doesn't matter if Vince got his in the end. It aired on TV,
he got his at the end. Okay, how much revenge did Trish get on Vince anyway? I mean, that was a farce.
But I mean, his whole claim was, it doesn't matter what we did on the show because, I got mine in the end. When in reality, they had it on TV and it aired, and people used that, and they used it against him. So, same thing with this.
Yeah, but I mean, what you just said, that's not going to fly in the real world.
No.
If someone sees a clip of that and they go, well, she did beat a guy on Heat.
I just see that as their mindset. I think that's why they did
That might be their mindset, but that's not going to mean nothing in the real world.
Yeah. Just like the whole Vince's argument about Trish meant nothing.
It meant nothing too. You're right. Let's see what else. I guess that was the main stuff. I mean, really, no. I heard the best wrestling match at the show was Jerry Lynn and American Dragon in a dark match.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I thought the main event though, the Hardys, and I really liked Austin and Helmsley the way they sold for the Hardys, and the Hardys worked their ass off. I mean, they really. They did a good job. The loss means nothing because it was the girls involved in the pin, and I don't think the idea of this was to elevate the Hardys, which is the same thing I was told before SmackDown with the Big Show thing. And when I watched it, it was like, how'd they get elevated? You know what I mean?
It was elevated when he bench pressed them 16 feet in the air, all three of them at the same time.
So I mean, again, I didn't see any elevation of new stars except for maybe Lita, but. I don't know. People are saying, okay, now you can have Lita against China, but I don't think we're going to be seeing that one. One good thing I will say is, though...
I don't think so.
No.
I wonder what China was thinking last night when her role in the show was to say hi to Linda McMahon, and Lita's role in the show was to win the main event.
Boy, was she buried. China?
She sure was.
Yeah, well, maybe she's finally...
That's what happens.
Yeah. What goes around comes around in this business all the time. Champion Carnival Tournament, the round robin ended today with Steve Williams beat Toshiaki Kawada with an armbar submission because they said that Kawada basically went in somewhat hurt from the match at the Osaka Dome last night. And so with Kawada losing and Taiyo Kiya beating Mike Barton, it'll be Tenryu against Taiyo Kiya, which is tomorrow in Sendai, which is actually late tonight, for the Champion Carnival Tournament. So with Kawada losing today and also losing yesterday in the tag, I got a feeling that Kawada's probably going to beat Muto in their first ever singles match, which will be on Saturday night at Budokan. And let's see, XFL, the Fast Nationals, which are not the Nationals. The Nationals probably just came out, but I don't have them. But on the Fast Nationals, the Saturday night game, which didn't go against basketball or against, was there any holiday Saturday night that we don't know about? Like some fake holiday someone can call? No.
Let's see.
Groundhog Day
Friday is next week. Does that count?
Yeah. No, a week before Good Friday. Okay. Well, anyway, they did
prepare for Christmas 2 weeks early.
They did a 1-7, which would be the second lowest that they've ever done. And the UPN show, or the UPN game, which on Sunday night did an 0.6, which I'm sure those UPN affiliates are just thrilled with. I think that may be the lowest. That's the lowest rating I have ever heard of for UPN. It may not be the lowest they've ever done because I'm not exactly an authority on UPN ratings week by week.
Sunday was Palm Sunday. And the Sunday before that was All Fool's Day. How ironic is that?
Yeah, really. Did you get the raw number yet? Because I haven't gotten that yet.
No, I didn't get anything.
Okay. Well, I would presume that before the end of the show we will get the raw stuff.
It'll be like this from now on, I think, with no competition.
Yeah, because no one really cares. I mean, even WWF, which is where I actually get those raw numbers from. It's like it's not like at 1:30 they're going, oh, let's look because it's kind of like that show last night. They you know what I mean? It's like you can see that they're willing to do longer segments because they got the audience and they're not going to have how big a tune-out factor you're really going to ever get without competition. I mean, not a lot, maybe a little. Let's see. UFC has finalized its card for May the 4th. We actually pretty much had every one of these matches mentioned at one time or another on this show, except for the Semi-Schilt match, which we had on the website the other day. Okay, the heavyweight title, Randy Couture defending against Pedro Hizo, which Pedro Hizo's got to be the favorite in that one. Then lightweight title, Pat Miletich against Carlos Newton, which is a good fight. Then Pete Williams from Lion's Den against Semi-Schilt. Semi-Schilt is about 6'10 and a half, 255 pounds. He's the current king of Pancras, and the tallest guy I've ever seen in one of these fights. Tremendous reach. I mean, standing up. Although I saw Gilbert Ibel hand in his head in a stand-up fight, just because Gilbert Ibel is such an awesome stand-up fighter. But he's got submissions. Dangerous opponent. Chuck Liddell against Kevin Randleman with a 199-pound weight limit. So it'll be the smallest we've ever seen Kevin Randleman fight because he usually comes in about 212, which is an interesting fight. Chuck Liddell is a good kickboxer, and he has a college wrestling background, so if he can avoid the takedown, he might be able to beat Kevin Randleman. I mean, Randleman will be the favorite, but I know people who think that he's going to lose. Then Ricardo Almeida, who's one of the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys, against gold medal winning wrestler Matt Lindland, so it's a very interesting fight. Matt Serra, who's Renzo Gracie's top student at 170 against Shoney Carter. And then we got Tony D'Souza against Steve Berger. It'll be the first time both of them have been in UFC. And I think Steve. And then BJ Penn against Joey Gilbert. I think BJ Penn won the World Championships in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. First American to do that, I think. And Joey Gilbert was an NCAA champion. That's a dark match, so it's a interesting show there. Let's see. At theotherarena.com, there's a story up right now on the ECW bankruptcy filing. So it lists, it's actually, let me see, $8.9 million. It's
otherarena.com, by the way. No,
the Other Arena. The otherarena.com, right?
Other Arena.
It's just Other Arena?
Yeah.
Okay. Otherarena.com. Let's see. Oh, I'm getting more. Let's see if I have any ratings here. I do not have any ratings here. Getting faxes by the second. Anyway, they had $8.9 million in debts owed to wrestlers, production people, print shops, arenas, promoters, lots of television stations, lots of business partners. $3.8 million that ECW owes to the Heyman family, and they have $1.4 million.
Don't forget Tommy Dreamer's truck.
Tommy Dreamer's truck, yeah. They have $1.4 million. No, that's their assets. Tommy Dreamer's truck.
Oh.
Yeah, $19,000 in assets. They have $1.4 million in assets. $500,000 of that is their what's the word I'm looking for? Their claimed price of the value of their videotape library. I can see the videotape library. They owe the WWF.
Didn't they say the library was $500,000?
That's what they said. Yeah, that's what they listed the worth as. Now they owe the WWF $600,000. So that may be where they clear up their debt.
Maybe
with
a fair
WWF.
Trade right there.
Well, I don't know if you consider it worth $600,000. I mean, Vince may not consider it that, but then again, that may be the only money he's going to get anyway.
He may not have an option.
Yeah, maybe he's making Paul work for like 5 years with no pay or something. Somehow, when it comes to these things, the WWF never, like, companies, when people go out of business, always get stiffed, right? Somehow the WWF always comes out okay in these business dealings. See, that legal team that's very, what's the word? Very good, I guess. Thorough, yeah. But they owed, let's see, $1 million to Acclaim. There were a lot of big, but anyway, all of that is up there at theotherarena.com. So, anyway, you can look that up. Let's see. We got on our poll today. What did you think of Monday Night Raw? A, excellent, B, good, C, average, D, bad, and E, awful. There's an interesting poll from yesterday. This is it possible to run a profitable national wrestling company against the WWF today? No, 27%. Yes, but only by copying WWF style, 3%. Now, what I find interesting about that is because I will guarantee you that 80% of the startups will do exactly that. Okay? and we've actually had, because they will. Okay, so anyway, yes, but only by coming up with your own style, 36%, 35%. And then yes.
That's Vince Russo and WOW.
Coming up with your own new style. That is Vince Russo and WOW, as a matter of fact. No, well, no, you know what, though? WOW is Glow. That's 80s. That's nothing new.
Yeah. But he wants to change it.
Okay, well, then it may be coming up with your own style. And then, yes.
Did I tell you got a greeting card? Did you get that greeting card I got from that website?
I got one, too, but I deleted it. I didn't have time. I just was too busy. Is there anything, in there that I should, know about?
Absolutely not.
Okay, well,
Mine just said, I will make WOW a success.
Good for him. Anyway, yes, doing old style, but with good booking and logic, 36%. I got to say, on that last one, which actually got the most votes of all, that if there's one thing that I'm really convinced of right now, is that doing 80s wrestling will not work today. I've just seen too many examples of guys that do good 80s wrestling and the public doesn't buy it. I think you need something completely different. And I wish that was wrong.
What kind of 80s wrestling are you talking about?
I'm just talking about Ohio Valley Wrestling at just
okay.
The angles. The angles make sense. The workers are actually getting fairly decent. And, like that last show that they did, really, I just thought it was a real eye-opener last Wednesday at just how much they fell. With the wrestlers actually getting better. And it just tells me that the current fan base, okay, only wants WWF. That's the reality of it. Because that's why nobody else is doing any business. I think that to do something on a big basis, you got to come up with a new concept. And I don't know what that is. Because, before, we talked about this before. Before, like when we talked about you could steal a new concept from Japan. I mean, ECW was basically FMW, which was a big success in Japan at the time. And a lot of the other stuff, was taken from Japan. A lot of concepts, Bischoff, Bischoff's everything, right? The junior heavyweights was, something that New Japan had been doing for years. The promotion versus promotion was what he saw when he went to that Tokyo Dome show. So and right now, as we have discussed, with the exception of Pride, which is totally different, and it is totally different as a matter of fact, but there's nothing in Japan in the pro wrestling world that's very novel that can be stolen and brought here. So they're going to have to come up with their own rather than steal the new concept from Japan. It's tough. It's a tough business. Let's get to some emails. Brian, Saturday was Passover, so that's the excuse.
Okay.
Let's see. This is from Gabriel, who goes, why do good girls like bad guys?
I thought it was Sunday.
What?
Passover was Sunday.
It was?
Yeah, but I believe the holiday starts at sundown Saturday, so.
Oh, okay, now wait a minute. That means that sundown Sunday is over, so that's not an excuse for the UPN rating, but it is an excuse when we get the TNN rating any minute now, which won't be good. Why do good girls like bad guys? Why are we doing... Oh, it's all my fault because I started with the Linda McMahon thing. Okay. There are plenty of women locked into abusive relationships who take so much shit and then put up a strong front. It could hit some of the audience. Yeah.
Sure hits a lot of the audience.
Yeah. Got another one. It was the first night of Passover. Is Passover like an 8-night holiday? Hanukkah is. I know that. I don't know. Okay.
Yes,
do you think...
If I'm not mistaken, it is.
Okay.
And I'm not Jewish, but I'm almost positive it is.
And I am, but I have no clue because all I do is watch wrestling.
Can we get a rabbi to call in, please?
Do you think Taikea will really beat Tenryu in the finals?
I hope so.
Don't think so. You think so? I don't think so.
I don't know if I think so, but I hope so.
Yeah, it'd be cool, but I don't think so. I don't see it. Tenryu wins going to his match with Fuyuki on the Kawasaki show next month. How would you use the character of China in the WWF? I would make her into a new character of this horrible author. Let's see. What kind of heat did Austin get from the fans last night on Raw? I was watching in a bar, so I couldn't hear the fan reaction. I thought I heard cheering, but I could have been wrong. It was mixed. I heard it was about 40 to 60% cheers, depending upon the point of view of the person listening. Did you get a weird feeling about Deliverance when Austin said that Ross had a pretty little cowboy hat? Well, obviously that's what it was taken from, so yes, that's exactly what I got. I hope the WF isn't using Spike Dudley just to take crazy bumps every night. He has great potential if they give him a chance. No, that's exactly what... That's how he got his job. We'll be seeing nothing but that.
He did nothing but take a beating last night. That bump into the post where he did the helicopter to the ground, I thought, that guy's done. He's done. Then Albert press slams him over the top, all the way to the floor.
Albert just threw him. Like,
he just launched him.
Yeah.
And then they killed him backstage. X-Pac, incredible, making fun. At least X-Pac didn't make fun of his physique. I was waiting for that one. That would have been a headline article.
What is the background of Sho Funaki? Who trained him? He was from Michinoku Pro, so I guess he was trained over in Japan. I heard he's from San Antonio. He lives in San Antonio now. He's not originally from San Antonio. Brian, do you know why he lives in San Antonio?
He was working for Michaels, wasn't he?
Okay, well, that's what he ended up doing because he lived in San Antonio. Do you know why he moved to San Antonio? It's actually an interesting story.
Never
you don't know. Okay. When he got the job with the WWF, he was such a big mark for Shawn Michaels that he moved to San Antonio so he could live in the same city as Shawn Michaels. And then he ended up getting a job at Shawn Michaels' school. Everybody laughed about that in Japan. I mean, he's like the biggest Shawn Michaels fan in the world. You know, when August comes and the Hall of Fame balloting comes in, you know, Shawn Michaels really does deserve to be in. For reasons that, like, every single wrestler we have on this show that's young always points out. But, God, you know, people that have been in wrestling, they hate him.
After this last incident, he's got no chance.
I don't know that he has no chance, but he didn't help himself. Hey, you know what, though? He does only have himself to blame, though. I mean, this last incident was, you know, you can't put that on anyone but him. Which wrestlers from UPW were signed to developmental deals? Have the Twins been released? I don't know. We're going to talk to Rick Bassman real soon so we can ask him about the Twins. I mean, I know they got Nathan Jones and Prototype and Aaron Aguilera signed, and I don't know who else. I think Justin, is McCulley? I don't even know. Who else? I think there may be a couple of others. Tom Howard's not. Oh, gosh. Don't remember off the top of my head. I'm almost halfway through the EMLL pay-per-view. This is from Rob Bahari. So far, it's great. The first two matches were really good. The second match was unbelievably good. The introductions are being nice, and the production values are way up. That's awesome. I'll probably have to take to that in just a few more days, and I'm always looking forward to good stuff to see. Who was responsible for all the misogyny angles on Raw recently? Paul Heyman? That's what they did in ECW. Have you ever heard of a wrestler named Jeremy Lopez? Isn't Jeremy Lopez the WCW red-haired referee?
No, I've heard of Jeremy Lopez.
Jeremy Lopez is a wrestler for Wildside, but I think it's the same guy as the referee that was WCW referee. I think.
Huh. I don't remember Jeremy Lopez, referee.
Why would they give Linda McMahon that horrible WrestleMania theme from 10 years ago? Are they trying to kill her heat? No. I mean, Linda McMahon and Jim Ross are the two... Yeah, Linda McMahon and Jim Ross are like the two top baby faces now that Rock's out of the picture and Austin turned, which is really weird watching a show like that. Is it me or is Vince in cruise control now that he doesn't have to compete against WCW?
It's just you.
No, it's not. Whatever happened to Axel Rotten and Jeff Jones? Axel, I sometimes see his name on Indies. Jeff Jones, I have not heard his name in a while. I also read in the Torch last year a fan died at a party after doing drugs given to him by Jeff Jones. That was, in fact, in the Torch. There was definitely a fan. It was Mikey Whipwreck's brother's best friend. It wasn't at a party. It was at a bar. And he got GHB and drank GHB and he died. I don't know that he was given it by Jeff Jones. But yeah, that story is very true. How do you think Vince convinced Linda to do this humiliating angle for her? I can just picture him telling her how it's going to go down, and Vince at the end is going to get his. Don't worry, you get to kick me in the gonads. I think Linda does it gladly because, everyone loves to be on TV and loves that the addiction to that cheer. I mean, I saw it. Remember? I guess it was last Monday night when Shane. It was last Monday night, the night that Shane was at WF New York.
Yeah.
Okay, and he's out there, and they're just cheering Shane, WCW, and all that. And there was something I saw in Shane, and it was like he was taking it, especially for a guy who's on the manipulative side. I'm not saying it's like because he's part of the writing team, creative team. So the people who are part of the creative team know that their job is to manipulate the audience. So then when the audience is manipulated, instead of taking it seriously, they should know this is how we manipulate our audience. So don't take it seriously. Nevertheless, the people on that side still end up being marks for that rush just as much as and they shouldn't be. It's just so addictive. And I just saw that, how there's certain reaction to him, and it was like, oh my God. It's like he's got the bug too. That's what the people have in wrestling is the bug. That's like kind of a word there. And that's why they can almost never leave because once you've been bitten by the bug, you never want to leave because you just love that adulation that, once you're not on television, you don't get anymore. That's why all these guys always come back. But anyway, as far as, Linda knows, she's admitted that her acting is not exactly the best, but she's the real wife and it fits in the storyline. She's going to do it. Let's see. Spike is going to be wheelchair bound if the WF keeps abusing him the way they are. If he keeps taking bumps like being thrown out of the ring by Albert, he won't last long. But he's,
it was the post one that really got me.
Yeah. One thing about him is that you can see this in him, is that he gladly does this. He really loves it. And that's not a knock. He just does. He really loves it. And you can just see how happy he is to be in the WWF. He had that, he started wrestling out here. He had that. Let's see. It seems that having Austin beat up on Lita, the most popular woman in the company, is a desperate attempt to get Austin over as a heel. The match was basically made to get Austin over, did nothing for the Hardys. I just read about the match and don't know if they had any good spots for them, but I assume they did. No, they sold a lot for the Hardys early.
They put the Hardys over strong.
Yeah, I thought
they were selling from like crazy until...
I loved the work of Austin and Hunter last night, both of them. I was watching that going like, you guys are doing you're doing the perfect job in this match, to sell for those guys. Do you think this turn?
The thing with Austin is they did it the first week. First week he was Jim Ross, got to beat up Jim Ross. Second week it's Lita, so I'm sure they're doing everything they can to get him over as a heel. Once he's over, they don't have to worry about doing stuff like that. But at the beginning, especially with Austin, that's stuff they have to do.
Yeah, because everybody wants to cheer for him. They still do, and they always will. It's just like with Flair. They're gonna have to beat it over people's heads because they just want it. Do you think the turn is not working as much as the WF hoped by having him do this? I think we'll find out when the attendance figures come in as far as the future. That's the real gauge. It's not. You know what? If 100% of the people cheered Steve Austin next week when he comes out in wherever city they are Monday, and they sell out and they do a big pay-per-view with Steve Austin against The Undertaker, and then the turn worked anyway. That's the key. It's not like what percentage of the people cheer or boo. It's how many people will buy the next pay-per-view. Which, with that main event, I don't know how many that'll be. It'll still be good because it's WWF. It won't be half of the last one, but I don't think anyone expects to be half the last one anyway. Do you know what the WF plans are for Tori? She was revealed, and then she vanished. She's doing the Tough Enough stuff. Isn't that what she's up to? So they're just taking her off TV, that's all. Let's see. If these last two Raws are a sign of what the WF is going to become with no competition, the fans are going to suffer more from the demise of WCW than most of them realized. Yes.
I think we've been saying that for a while.
We said that before this even happened, before they even went unopposed. Let's see. I've read a lot of negative remarks about the Lita angle. Well, that's a big thing. What are your thoughts on how women are used in the WWF? I like the angle with Lita and Steve Austin. I think it elevated Lita for a title match with Chyna. No, it didn't. Ethically, I don't like that Lita was portrayed so weak. It portrays women as weak and unable to defend themselves, which make no sense because Lita is actually the best female wrestler the WWF has.
I don't think she was really portrayed as weak.
No, she was protecting...
they show the footage of her beating Spike. She won the match, and the reason she was beaten up was because she was overwhelmed by two guys with chairs. They could have overwhelmed anybody like that.
She was protecting Matt. She was saving Matt from the beating. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like, she was doing all these high-flying moves and they just stood there and she fell off them. I mean, they jumped her and pummeled her with chairs.
Yeah. Let's see. Considering the awesome talent roster WF has, there's no excuse for putting on the kind of garbage we saw last night. Think of the endless combinations of matches they could put on if given time and how awesome they could be. They could just throw Benoit and Triple H out there for 15 minutes and have them tear the house down. Well, they could. Maybe they're saving it for another time. Instead of putting on horrible segments like the Linda Vince segment, if used properly, this roster could put on great shows like 3 previous pay-per-views every single week. Unfortunately, that does not look like that is going to happen. This is way too reminiscent of WCW 1996 to 1998. It is weird. There is some weird stuff. Let's see. From Levi Tinney, who goes, is there any news on Rey Mysterio's chances for a slot in the new WCW? Nothing new. Nothing new. He has not heard anything. No final decision has been made. Do you ever think we'll see the return of Juventud Guerrera on the national level? Juventud Guerrera is, 26 years old? So I would say yes, we will. We will. He's too talented that... he's another one. If we don't, it's his fault. It's not the fault of the companies. Because if Juventud Guerrera plays his cards right for the next year, I can't imagine the WWF... Actually, I can. I take that back. I can't imagine somebody else that opens up a national promotion that he would be one of the first guys that they try to take. So... I would say he will get the chance, and hopefully he will not blow the chance.
Actually, I was just thinking back to the previous letter. If you have, pay-per-views that are exactly like the Raws, or Raw shows that are exactly like the pay-per-views, where you're getting 15-minute matches on both, and great matches every night, or at least great matchups or whatever, there really isn't so much of an incentive to buy the pay-per-view as opposed to having, what we had on Monday night, or maybe a little bit better without all the storylines and everything like that, and less Vince and Linda, but, build stuff up on the TV shows, and it can be a little bit slower, and then you have to actually buy the pay-per-views to see the good long matches, and I think that really that's probably better for business. I mean, you can't give it all away for free on TV. Why buy?
Okay. Brian, now I got a question for you. Who the hell makes the decisions in Japanese wrestling? I mean, they give their pay-per-view matches on TV for free a week later.
Yeah.
Can you
That's good.
I think that's retarded. I don't get it. I was just watching the New Japan from the 31st, and then they showed, all the highlights of the Misawa and Akiyama match with Hashimoto and Nagata. And I'm going you're doing it again. It's like every pay-per-view.
You know what, though? I can almost see that because pay-per-view is at the beginning over there. It's in its infancy. And I can imagine, at the very beginning, you do some great pay-per-view matches and you give them away for free on TV and you let people know that this is what they're going to get on pay-per-view. And then you slowly stop giving so much away. So by the time more people can get pay-per-view, they know what they can get, but they don't get it anymore. You know what I mean?
Okay, I can see your logic there, except the only thing is that they already have a history of giving good matches on television, and all it does is, pay-per-view did not take off in Japan like it did here, because if you go back to when pay-per-view started in this country, which I guess would be mid-'80s, WWF pay-per-views, you had to pay for your house show matches, and TV was nothing but 2-minute or 3-minute squash matches, or longer squash matches, but you never got main events on free television. And so the idea of, if you were a longtime fan, the idea of seeing the big match, you would go to the arena and you'd spend your, it was only $5 then, but that's whatever it was, the price, but you had to pay to see the big match. That was always a part of American wrestling. In Japanese wrestling, the mentality has always been that you get the big match for free. And I think that, because of that, I think that they have to hold something back from TV to make people think that, pay-per-view is something that eventually you have to buy.
Yeah.
So, let's see. This is from Tom Green, who goes, I think Rick Cornell is excellent in the ring. That's Reno, who I believe they picked him up, by the way. Although I cannot confirm that name, but I would just think that they have. I hope he gets a chance in the new WCW. This past summer I saw him in the best squash match I've ever seen. I don't think I would call the match a squash. It was for Worldwide against Vampiro. Well, then it wasn't a squash. Vampiro made him look really good. They did some out-of-the-ring brawling. They kicked out of each other's finishers. And the move Vampiro used to finish the match was unusually good. He power-bombed him. It was the first time I've seen him do that finish that I know of. Let's see. Let's see. Is the real Ultimate Warrior still alive, or is it his twin brother? We have to answer that. He is still alive. His brain died many years ago.
It's the same body.
Yeah, he's sort of still alive.
New brain.
When is that Mexican wrestling tape coming out that you mentioned you worked on several months ago? Mexican wrestling.
You must be talking about the Wrestling Gold.
Wrestling Gold's coming out real soon. I don't know exactly when, but very soon. Did Terry Funk's friend who refereed his retirement match, I think that's Dennis Stamp, in Beyond the Mat, really have an exterminator gimmick? No, Dennis Stamp never had an exterminator gimmick that I'm aware of. He did wrestle, though. I remember Dennis Stamp was actually a pretty good wrestler, and I know that people will, if they've seen that movie, in the Los Angeles promotion, this would be in the mid-'70s, Dennis Stamp was, when Gene LaBelle got old, he became the company policeman. And that's actually a foreign term to most people, but in the old days, a lot of the companies had a guy who was generally speaking like either an amateur wrestler or just a tough guy who would be the company policeman. People would come to the office, like, Marks or whatever, and go, I want to be a wrestler, and they would put him in the ring with the company policeman whose job was to basically break their ankle or break their face and just beat the hell out of them. And, so anyway, I don't know why I brought that up other than I thought that, most people who watched, Beyond the Mat probably did not picture that was Dennis Stamp's role when he was a wrestler, but that's in fact what it was. Let's see. If Mike Tyson accepts Tank Abbott's challenge, okay, forget it. Stop right there.
Trash bin.
Will Rock be back early if the movie shuts down due to the strike? Absolutely. Who trained Molly Holly? Do you know who trained Molly Holly? She's from Minneapolis. I'm not sure.
I have no idea.
A lot of it was I know she trained for a long time at the power plant, but I don't know if that's where she started. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. This is about ECWA Saturday Night in Delaware, which actually I never got a report on. The crowd wasn't that hot, but the matches didn't suffer much. The highlight was American Dragon and Low Ki against the Haas Brothers for the tag team titles. The Haas Brothers really showed their stuff, and they should get a spot on TV soon. They've really improved on the mic as well. American Dragon turned on Low Ki with a Connecticut connection. Still, Low Ki walked away winning the straps from the Haas Brothers, doing a 540 splash. 540 splash. Is that 3 revolutions?
540. How could you do wait.
540? Wouldn't 540 be a senton?
No, senton would be 180.
No, a double senton.
Like a 450 into a senton?
Yeah, which would be a 540.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, all 4 competitors deserve a television spot. I'm really impressed with the consistent improvement of Low Ki each month. At 21 with 3 years in the business, he can really be great. Yeah, I have not seen Low Ki wrestle, but I've heard a lot about him. Let's see. Okay,
wouldn't it be the Matt Rat spot, the 540?
The 540 senton off of the launching pad, yeah.
And this guy wasn't even going off a launch pad.
Yeah. Let's see. Passover is a 10-day holiday. Oh, good, so they can use it for next weekend too.
For the playoffs.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. What are your thoughts on Tori Human's workers? Shima, Sua. Let's see. Shima's awesome. Sua's very good as well. Let's see. I was wondering what was up with the Dusty Rhodes Midnight Rider angle in the suspension in 1988. That's actually a really funny angle, and that they suspended Dusty Rhodes for, I don't know how long it was. Maybe, let's say 60 days, okay? The number could be wrong. And so they start this thing where the Midnight Rider came back, which of course was Dusty Rhodes under a mask, against Tully Blanchard. And they'd done this angle many times in the 80s. So people knew it. And the people revolted on it, and the houses were horrible. And 2 weeks later, I think they had Paul Bosch as figurehead commissioner. He just announced, one Saturday on television, I didn't even know this one was coming, but I knew that the Midnight Rider Tully thing was dying. I mean, it was this feud that was just dying. And Paul Bosch is on TV Saturday morning and goes, we've lifted the suspension on Dusty Rhodes, and he just came back and they never referred to him as a Midnight Rider again. tons of emails and faxes. I want to make a correction. We've got several emails about this. I got confused. Jeremy Lopez is a wrestler that was on WCW Saturday Night. He was with the guy Tony Mamaluke and a couple of the other guys that came up from Dean Malenko. They were trained by Dean Malenko in Florida, and were brought in as cruiserweights by Chris Kanyon. The red-haired referee is Jamie Tucker. So anyway, that's where I got confused. So they're two different people with the name Jamie. No, they're not. Jamie is Jamie San. No, I just got confused. There's no excuse. Let's see. Here are the excuses coming up for the low ratings for the XFL. Next week is, of course, Easter weekend. And then the week after is a new moon. So that's for the championship. Let's see. Which federation had the Nicho Santo hair versus mask match? Which, by the way, I just watched last night. And the match is very good. It was not... some people compared it to the Tajiri match with Psychosis from ECW. And it was not... I don't think it was nearly as good as that. But it was still... it's a 30-minute match. I mean... And it was very, very good. And Psychosis Nicho did a great job in the match. I mean, he really did a good performance. A lot of, dives and, very good match. It was Promociones Baja California, I believe was the name of the company that promoted it. What happened with Shawn Michaels at SmackDown? I don't know. He was just unable to go on there. I don't know. I'm not hiding anything. They assumed that he was impaired in some form and could not perform. But he clearly could not perform. Let's see. Now that Rock is out of the picture, why haven't Benoit and Jericho been elevated to a higher babyface position? We ask that every day. I do not have an answer. Someone goes, I saw a commercial for Manhunt, which is a WXW television show on TV. It looks like Paintball War, and one of the participants was Prototype. That's interesting.
Really?
That's what they said. I mean, I don't know if that's true. I hadn't heard that. I would think I would have known that, but I don't know.
I thought they were talking about they weren't going to use any WWF guys or anything on the shows.
Well, he's not a WWF guy.
He's under developmental deal.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's really him or maybe they just got a bodybuilder who looked like Sting.
When is that show going to start? I didn't even know they have commercials or anything yet.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know when it's going to start either. Let's see. More about... Got a lot of emails. God. I guess I confused those two guys. Let's see.
I don't think you're going to get any better than the one that just came in, and I'm going to send it down to you. But apparently a guy writes in and says, wasn't the Table Tennis Pro-Am on ESPN 7 at the same time? XFL?
Yeah, TSN did not show most of that angle at the end of the show last night, which actually makes 2 weeks in a row. So anyway, let's see. Let's say something about Russo in just a second, because we've got a couple of emails. Here's the situation. We're not going to, at least I'm not. Brian can say whatever he wants, but I'm not even going to bother anything with Russo, because until he does something in wrestling again, I mean, if someone wants to bring up facts from the past, that's fine and well and good. But you know what happens when I think that Russo is looking for this, and other people have, obviously, as everyone knows that's followed the show, they look at attempting to get in this internet battle. And what happens is when you do that, when you start responding, everyone forgets the facts. Like I can go in there and say, well, this is the fact and this is the fact, and people will just ignore the facts and just go, oh, it's those two guys fighting, and I just don't feel like being involved in something as stupid as that right now. So I'm not gonna. I've seen this trailer for Max Payne's movie. I could have sworn I saw a drug deal. Hey, you did. Let's see. After seeing Hardcore Holly and Rhino in the ring together, I came to the conclusion that Bob Holly must be a super heavyweight. I'm sick and tired of Heyman talking about the man beast when he looks like mini-me of Brian Clark. Let's see, what did Rick Rude die of? It was a drug overdose. When will Max Payne's movie come out? Never.
Count on that one.
Oh, no. How far back does the WCW tape library go back that the WWF recently purchased? Will it include stuff from Crockett's NWA days? Yes, it will, and yes, it does. Let's see. Some more on Russo. Let's see.
How'd you like to be in charge of cataloging all that? Just getting to sit all day and watch old wrestling tapes.
You get paid for it. What the hell?
Yes.
Hey, there's a lot worse jobs than having to go through old wrestling tapes.
Especially in the WWF.
Especially those old 80s Crockett tapes. Some of that stuff was really good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's from Jeff Jackson, who goes, the segment involving Vince and Linda had to be one of the worst segments I've ever seen on WWF television. The build-up to all this, and all we get is a divorce. Hey, divorce is a big deal. That's $1 billion company split in half. I'd rather sit
what I hated most about that whole thing is the whole build-up was for Linda to say she wanted a divorce in an attempt to do the same voice that Vince did when he asked for his divorce. And I thought that just utterly killed it. She should have just said, I want a divorce, dude. Instead, she had to try and mock him or, copy his growl or whatever, and it was just terrible.
And he goes, I would rather sit through a no-time limit match, Iron Man match with Billy Gunn. How can a no-time limit match be an Iron Man match? That means it never ends, I guess. Between Billy Gunn and David Arquette. Well, that's a scary thought. Let's see. Does that mean we can look forward to a series of Lita Steve Austin matches? Brian just talked about that. Goes, a lot of people complain about these kind of segments at the end of Raw promoting violence against women. Personally, I don't think it encourages real-life violence, but it's not the kind of thing I enjoy watching. See, I'm like the opposite. Actually, I don't think it encourages real-life violence either, but it can be used as a scapegoat for it. But I have to say as a fan, knowing because Lita is a professional wrestler and everything, I did enjoy that segment. I thought it was great heat, but I would never have done it. When you're running a wrestling company, one of the things is that you cannot book for what you enjoy. And, I mean, you should book for what the fans enjoy, but sometimes you also, if the fans want to see, like, someone getting their head chopped off, you have to know that, well, if we do that, aside from the fact the person will die, will probably be taken off the air. So you've got to, give the people what you can give them without being stupid. And this one is what they did last night. It may not, it's like it was a risk. That's all. It's a risk.
But would you have thought about that in advance?
I don't know if I would have, because I didn't when watching it. So I could say I wouldn't, but at the same time,
there should have been someone there that would have. Okay,
but I wouldn't have done that segment. I wouldn't have done that segment because I would have thought, not necessarily the Tiffany Unic thing in advance, but as far as repercussions in advance, yes, I would have. I would have thought of that, but the connection to that murder case, which actually several people emailed to me later that night. No, I don't think I would have thought of that specific thing, but then as soon as those emails came in, I started thinking oh my God, it's more dangerous than I really considered. Anyway, let's see. A lot of people have made the comment about that segment saying that that's how you make someone a heel. Maybe it's just me, but if having Steve Austin beat a woman merciless with a steel chair is what it takes to get him over as a heel, then it just shows how desperate they are to get him over as a heel. Hey, they are. Everyone wants to love him. It's not easy. I mean, that's the reality. However, I don't think it worked for one reason. As brutal as this beatdown was, when we see a man beating up women on a semi-regular basis, it does lose its shock value. Jim Ross can scream about how sick this is all he likes, but how sick can it be if both faces and heels have been doing it regularly to different degrees? Yeah, I used to hate when they start, when they would have these matches, when Lita would be in it. Remember when Lita was with Benoit or somebody, and Lita, or China too. Actually, China was the one that used to bother me. It's like China would be pounding on these guys, giving them low blows, not selling for anyone, for months, and then finally, some guy would put them in a crossface, and it was like, they were beating up a woman.
I used to hate that. Build sympathy for him, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like the whole thing last night. I mean, they had, it was Rhino versus Crash and Molly. So Crash and Molly are supposed to be a tag team. And she never even tags in, and Rhino gores Crash to death. And then Molly hits the ring, who is his build tag team partner, and Rhino goes after her, and Jim Ross is just appalled. And I thought, she's on the team. She's not even a valet, she's on the actual team tonight.
That's right. He should have been appalled by the matchmakers for making such a match in the first place. Okay, so anyway. It's from Chris, who goes, TSN cut Raw again. The last 3 minutes were all crowd shots, and towards the end, they pulled the plug on the show. In fact, did you hear about that, Brian? They actually pulled the plug on the show a couple minutes early. They went straight to regular programming. This is strange. It was 11:05 Eastern Time. What 5-year-old kid is up on a school night watching Austin beat Lita? You know what's scary about that statement?
You'd be surprised by how many
you would be surprised how many, because they are. That's what the demographics say. I mean, they're usually at the end of they're probably like 800,000 to 1 million. They weren't all 5, but under the age of 11. Anyway, let's get to the phones. Let's start with Phil in DC. Phil, what's going on?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey, we're doing really good.
A couple of things. From what I know, Funaki was Fujiwara Gumi in Battle Arts before he was Mikanoko Pro.
Yes, you're right.
So he might have been trained by Fujiwara. If people were wondering who he was trained by. It's so weird that he was a Shawn Michaels mark, because he doesn't wrestle anything like him. I mean, he's like all mat. I mean, at least in Japan, now he's just takes bumps, but before he was all mat work.
That would have been from his probably Battle Arts and Fujiwara training,
Right, but I mean, Shawn Michaels is not necessarily known for his stellar mat work.
No.
I mean, that's like absolutely the worst thing you got.
Maybe he admired him because he was American that got all the girls.
Yeah,
it had nothing to do with his wrestling style.
A couple of other questions I had. Jeremy Lopez. He was a Saturday Night guy. He used to team in Six Mans with the Vianos back when the Young Dragons just started out. They had like wrestled 3 or 4 times on Saturday Night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he has some good matches. Pretty good wrestler. I mean, he's pretty.
I saw him wrestle at the Pillman show last year.
Yeah,
he was a good wrestler.
He's kind of bland, but solid. He seemed a lot more like technically solid than a lot of those other guys they brought up.
Yeah.
So really sort of very. It wasn't flashy like most of those guys. What was it?
What, is Reno flashy?
Well, no, but he's big.
Okay.
He's one of the smaller guys. Bigger.
Yeah.
Reno was a power plant guy.
Yeah.
And I always thought Molly Holly was Starla Sexton.
She was. She was, yes.
Right, so she was wrestling a long time before she was in WCW.
No, that's not Sue. Okay, that's not Sue Sexton. Starla, she's only like 23 or 24 years old.
Oh, really?
She's really young.
Yeah, she's only been wrestling, I think she started when she was 19, so she might have been wrestling 4 or 5 years.
Okay, so she wasn't in, Power.
No, that's Susan Sexton.
Oh.
Who's really old. Susan Sexton's like Bill Apter's age.
Oh.
I think, and I'm not making this up, I think Susan Sexton and Bill Apter used to be roommates at one point for useless trivia.
That's why I like calling this show, Dave, because Lord knows where I'd find that out someplace else.
The only other person who would know that is Bill Apter and Susan Sexton, because nobody else is old enough to remember. And they would probably deny it. No.
You need to get your hands on some Loki. Maybe I'll send you the Super 8. You probably need to see that anyway.
I got a tape of, believe it or not, I got a tape of the Super 8 here.
Oh,
I haven't watched it yet.
Watch the Loki matches. He does some stuff. I mean, the Super 8, the American Dragon Loki match, unless I see something bad, it's easily the indie match of the year. And it's really weird because it's compared to like a stylistic thing, the way, at least a lot of the stuff I've seen, especially like in Revolution Pro down in California too, that indie guys are trying to work a lot stiffer. Like that was the big problem when you go to these Super 8s over the years, is you see guys work really loose. Like that'd be an indie thing, is you'd see guys with like really bad punches and really bad, especially when it's live and you're 15 feet away and you can see them completely whiff the punches and kicks. But all the American Dragon matches, all the Loki matches, I mean, they were really, really tight, especially the final. They were just killing each other, just kicking each other really, really hard. And it's just kind of this neat thing. I don't know whether, Brian, that's something you see in the matches you wrestle.
Tim's always yelling at people to not punch at all, because he thinks they're just horrible.
But there's nothing worse than like guys trading bad punches.
Oh man,
yeah.
Joey Matthews, Christian York. I don't know if they've gotten any better, but they were like back when I used to see them around, because I'm from the Northeast and they used to wrestle a lot of indies. Joey Matthews had like the worst punches I've ever seen. I mean, he was like, he was like daylight. Really bad. Just everything else somebody does when they start throwing punches and on a big comeback, and then you can see 6 inches just kills your entire ability to watch a match. But like all this work in the Super 8, it was all really Loki and American Dragon were kicking each other as hard as a lot of stuff I've seen in Japan, which is shocking for U.S. indie guys because usually it's just.
But these guys, a lot of those guys, like they pattern a lot of their wrestling from Japan tapes. It's not like, say, you know what I mean, years ago where people didn't. It's like a lot of the indie guys watch a lot of tapes. That's why our style's a melting pot style as opposed to just that pure 80s American style.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's something that I know. Yeah, you noticed spots being incorporated maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but the stiffness seems like it's something that came in sooner, like more recently. So you should watch Super 8. I'd be interested to see what you thought of that. I was one of the probably better live shows I've ever been to. I've been to a bunch, like from start to finish. Although I didn't think the Haas brothers were any good. Maybe they've gotten better. But they didn't. I didn't think they looked very good in the match they had on that show. Real, like the opposite of everybody else. All their strikes were really, really stinky. Oh, they had nice suplexes and they were big and muscular. And I had a question about the tape library. I know they were doing on Turner South, they were showing old NWA stuff. Now that WWF owns that, are they going to stop doing that? And I know that.
Yes,
and I thought
they stop doing that.
And I thought they also just started showing those shows in Japan on Samurai TV, like maybe a week and a half ago.
The WCW Classics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
That show's been canceled, so I'm sure if they were getting it from, a feed.
Yeah, that deal's out the window, and I don't think WF has any TV deals in Japan. I mean, they're on. Well, I shouldn't say that. They have the one where the Raw's on, and I mean, they do have that one TV deal, but they'd have to go through the WF TV deal. Now, there's something I just heard. It was it was something in Japan just got a TV deal, some television show, and now I don't remember what it is. Someone just mentioned to me last night about a new TV show that was going to be on one of those, Samurai or something from America. But now
NWA Gold, which was supposedly this like a classics kind of program that was going to show regional wrestling, was something that supposedly just started out. And I know that somebody who gets tapes from Japan, one of the people I deal with, mentioned to me that what they were showing initially was just the Turner South program. Mm-hmm. I guess supposedly Dusty was involved somehow, and like the initial idea was that they were going to show like regional wrestling from all the different NWA promotions from like the 80s uncut matches. But
it ended up being mostly the Crockett stuff, though.
Right.
And the old,
And one other, so I was just what you guys said. I actually watched Raw last night. It's the first time I watched it on Fast Forward, so I was able to burn through that Linda McMahon interview, which I'm sure was agonizing in real time. But I think they could probably get a bigger buy rate if they ran the Hardys against Austin and Triple H at the pay-per-view in like a ladder match. Then they could.
They're not going to do it.
Kane and Undertaker. But do you agree with me? Because I actually think they're probably people are more interested in seeing that than they would seeing Kane. I just don't think Kane and Undertaker are draws anymore. Like a top spot.
They have to beat up Lita every week. I don't know if they're going to do that.
Yeah. Let's get a couple of emails here. This says, Prototype is one of the Manhunt Warriors. He was promoting the show on the television show Extra under a really bad 80s wrestling name like Crazy Ken or Bad Brian. Does Linda McMahon own a large percentage of the WWF? I thought the company was mostly owned by Vince. Actually, Vince and Linda each own, I guess, what would be about 80% of the company? Maybe 77%. And I think the other 23% is public. Something like that. There's about 3% owned by NBC. And then there was 3% owned by Viacom. But wasn't Viacom the one that dumped like a lot of their stock?
Yeah, Viacom dumped a bunch.
Yeah. So 23% of it is not owned by... Yeah, he dumped a bunch. He made a lot of money. Yes, the McMahon family owns about 77% of the company. Let's see. Did Stan Hansen knock out Vader's eye in a match in Japan, and then they kept wrestling? No, he pounded him in his eye and blackened the eye, something fierce. I mean,
eyeball was just hanging there by a ligament.
Yeah, it was hideous. But they kept wrestling. They were okay. Let's see. Will the WF be going ahead with Steve Austin versus Jim Ross and Triple H versus Lita double main event at Backlash? Maybe they could add Albert and Spike to make things even better. Let's see. Who are the front runners in starting up a new federation? I mean, no one. So the first guy to get TV. Are ratings out yet? I have not seen the ratings, no. Let's see. On Amazon.com, they say Wrestling Gold comes in on April the 24th. So that's the video that Jim Cornette and myself, or the DVD that Jim Cornette and myself did voiceovers on. Let's see. Taz said that Molly Holly was trained by Dean Malenko. So, could be. He's probably right. Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate on what happened to the Ultimate Warrior? Brian, what happened to that guy?
What's that supposed to mean? What happened to him? He left wrestling for a while. He started his Ultimate Academy, tried to sell various things, sold approximately none of them, and came back for a brief run, was horrible, and disappeared.
He's living in Phoenix.
History.
He's living in Phoenix, and the last he was supposed to wrestle was on a tour of Australia, and he got the whole tour canceled because he forgot to get his passport in time for the tour. And that just tells you why he's not in WWF or WCW. Well, it's WWF. There is no WCW.
I think there are other reasons, but that's one of them.
No. But that's part of it's the big picture. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's like that's not the reason, but it's the character reason. I mean, if you don't get your passport in time for your trip and they cancel the whole tour, someone who would do that is likely not to be responsible enough to keep a job in a real company either. Which, in fact, he didn't. I remember WWF had a primetime special on NBC with the Big Boss Man against Hogan and Savage. Do you remember how it did ratings-wise? God, I know. They did. Did they do like 2 primetime specials on NBC?
Primetime as far as
not Saturday Night Main Event. They had the primetime one. I remember.
The other one was like Hogan. Was Hogan and Andre the primetime one?
Hogan and Andre was the first one. It did a 15.2 rating. I remember that one because it's the biggest rating that probably any wrestling show has ever done that I've ever heard of in this country. And I think that they did another one a year later. I don't remember. But yeah, it did, the second one didn't do as good as the first one, but I think in fact, the second one did not really do all that well. And the first one, the 15.2 was considered pretty darn good, but not, some people expected it actually to do better. And then it was, do you think a WrestleMania Survivor
Series? Okay, let me ask you a question about the 80s. Okay. They have Hogan versus Andre getting a 15.2 rating.
Yes.
And that was the match where it was the Evil Twin, correct?
Yes, that was the Evil Twin match, yeah.
So lots of shenanigans, and a lot of Americans saw this match, and I don't know if that has, everything to do, I'm sure it doesn't, but, American wrestling was always considered this goofy thing with guys in their underwear, blah, blah, blah. And what would you think would have happened if it would have been like Flair Steamboat to a clean finish, they got a 15.2 rating? You think people would have generally a different impression of what pro wrestling is?
That's an interesting question. Maybe wrestling fans would, but the general public, I would say, probably no.
That 15.2 was not all wrestling fans. It had to have been a lot of
it was just it was NBC prime time. That was before, I mean, you got to remember in those days.
So that's like the exposure that a lot of mainstream people got of wrestling. This big fat guy, this tan bald guy, having a match with this fake referee and all this goofy stuff going on, and that's the impression that they got. What if they seen Flair Steamboat having a hell of a match and a clean finish and fans cheering and everything like that?
It would have made it more difficult for some people to knock it, but they still would have.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the first time they did a Saturday Night's Main Event because it was Bruiser Brody, this was a time when, All Japan and New Japan had been prime time, and big time prime time rating successes in Japan for years. And they did Saturday Night's Main Event, and they did all the goofy stuff, that they did. And Brody said, in Japan, we've had prime time for 30 years. And the reason we've had prime time for 30 years is because we don't, make fun of our product. And, they're going to come out and they're going to have a big run, but they're not going to have prime time for 30 years. As it turned out, they didn't have prime time for 30 years, and neither did Japan. But, it did last longer in Japan, if nothing else. Let's see. How much would it be worth? We talked about this yesterday. For CBS to put WrestleMania on free TV, would it make money on advertising? They have to sell $17 million worth of ads for it, or they have to pay $17 million to Vince for it, and they're not going to do it, so it ain't going to happen. Is Dynamite Kid in the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame? Yes. If he can get inducted, why can't Shawn Michaels? Probably because Dynamite Kid changed the business a lot more than Shawn Michaels did. Even though you could argue Shawn Michaels was a better wrestler, I don't think Shawn Michaels changed anything about wrestling. Dynamite Kid opened, Dynamite Kid and Satoru Sayama, changed the style of work, and opened it up to a lot smaller people. Robin Kreutzer. So historically speaking, I think he was a more pivotal person. Not in this country, but worldwide. And in this country, in a roundabout way. Robin Kreutzer was wondering what happened to Brian Anderson in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. That's Ole's son, and I don't know what happened to him. Jim, who says, is Vince going to have a second XFL season? He says he is. If he was smart, he wouldn't. I want to say I went to some Demons games, and the arena experience is very different from watching it on television. Is there a second season? How can they increase TV ratings? That's the million-dollar question that I don't have an answer for. Let's go to Charles in Connecticut. Charles, what's going on?
That's the $100 million question.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Doing really good.
Do you have a list or a partial list of the wrestlers that were released from Time Warner?
No, I know of a
confirmed list.
Oh yeah,
but I don't know. I don't know all of them. I mean, I know Vampiro's on it. I know Chris Daniels is on it, but I don't know. I don't have a complete list.
Norman Smiley.
I don't know about Norman Smiley. He might be. I don't know.
I saw this on the internet, and kind of have my doubts about it, but said that Ric Flair said that when he was going to Vern Gagne's wrestling school that he quit one time, and that Vern Gagne came to his house and dragged him in the backyard and beat the crap out of him.
That's pretty much true.
Is it
that's
really?
Pretty much true. Yeah, that's pretty true. Yeah.
Vern must have been a pretty tough guy because Ric Flair was
Vern Gagne
at that time.
Vern Gagne was a legend in wrestling. I mean, he and of course he was a lot older then, but Vern Gagne in 1948 lost a very close match to who was it? Henry Wittenberg, and in the Olympic trials. And then Henry Wittenberg beat everyone in the Olympics and won a gold like it was nothing. So Vern very likely was the second best wrestler in his weight in the whole world, in his prime at the 191.
Something else to think about though. I mean, let's say that I were like this great college wrestler or whatever, and I went to Ric Flair's school. Say Ric Flair had a school, and I quit, and Ric Flair came over to my house and dragged me in the backyard and was beating me up. I would not do a thing. I just lay there and get beat.
It's just out of respect. Yeah, you probably wouldn't.
Yeah,
fight
like
back.
I'm going to fight back at Ric Flair.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's actually where, because Vern Gagne, when he was training Chris Taylor, and I don't know if people remember Chris Taylor, but he was like, he was an Olympic bronze medalist in wrestling. He was much younger and was also 450 pounds. I mean, Vern used to slap him around in camp, but I mean, if they got into a fight, I mean, Vern was 50 years old. I mean, I think Chris Taylor could just fall on him and break his ribs.
He was a big guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw Jerry Lawler at a baseball card show over the weekend, and he said that he might be involved with some kind of new promotion. That there were people.
I'm sure he's hoping that.
Yeah, because some guy asked him, he's like, I hope I see you on TV again. He's like, oh yeah, I'll be on TV. But he said before that he wouldn't be, there was very little chance of him being in WWF.
I mean, put it this way, whoever's going to open up, I mean, Jerry Lawler is like the first person you call to be an announcer. So it's not like, whoever gets something, it's not like, he's going to, it's just a question of how long they can last. But, I would think he'd be like, he's on that A list of people that you call right away.
I mean,
seeing as how they kind of gave Lawler his release kind of that same day that the sale went through and everything like that, do you think that if somebody started up, like if Bischoff suddenly got Fox and was announcing that he was going to start up, do you think Vince would call Lawler back pretty much immediately?
Depends on how much of a threat he thought it was. If he didn't think it was a real threat, now okay, if it was the Fox TV network, like real Fox in prime time, let's say on a Friday night, yes. Mm-hmm. Because that's a real time slot that would be scary. If it's like, say, Fox Sports Net, or something like that, at midnight on Sunday night, probably no.
Okay.
Is Hulk Hogan still under contract or no?
No, he's not under contract to anybody.
Do you know if he's trying to start up a Fed now? You always hear talk of that.
He's always trying, of course. He's anything to con people out of money.
The thing is, like, I always
keep his name alive.
I keep hearing that people are going to start up federations and stuff, but I mean,
everyone's going to try, and whoever gets TV will have a chance. I mean, the key's to TV.
But I mean, wouldn't you need like Ted Turner money to be able to compete with WWF?
To compete with WWF on WWF level, absolutely. but you don't need to compete on WWF level. I mean, you just need to be able to survive at a decent budget. I mean, if you want to spend $750,000 a week on television, you're going to need a ton of money.
And it's going to be hard without the big names. I don't know how many guys they could get, like maybe Luger or somebody like that, or Nash. But if they don't have
that's a problem too. If you think of that, that was scary right there.
Yeah, well, it's not that I want to see Luger on TV again, but
all the guys that Vince doesn't. You're going to get all the guys Vince doesn't want. Well, you can get Van Damme. And then, could you imagine Luger and Van Damme talking over their match? You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. It's like, what can you do? You can do a wrist lock. Or you can go on my shoulders for a torture rack.
A headlock.
Stand there while I clothesline you and miss you by a foot, but you got to go down.
Wrist lock.
That's right. He doesn't know that one either.
Oh, thanks a lot, guys.
Okay, very welcome. Let's go to Ed in Texas. Ed, what's up?
Yeah, Dave, I wanted to know, what are the chances that the WWF, to keep some of the WCW wrestlers in shape, would send them on house shows and dark matches?
They could if they want to. It doesn't seem like that's the idea right now, though. I mean, I thought...
if they're not going to bring Rock in for a dark match for TV to try and get people there, I don't see him sending the young guys to, WWF tapings to give them some work.
I don't understand why right now some of these guys, like O'Hare and them, aren't in Ohio Valley right now.
Yeah.
Why? They should send them there and, why let them get rusty for 2 months before you put them on TV, especially because they all need more work anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, the fact that they're not doing that tells me
Or maybe they're working on that right now. I mean, they haven't made too many solid decisions yet.
Yeah, hopefully, maybe that's right. Maybe within 2 weeks they'll do that, and that'll be good, and they should.
I hope they do, because the last thing they need to do is have like a bunch of guys look good, but be like Billy Gunn and be blowing up in a minute or two on the first show.
Yeah, on the first TV. I know.
By the way, you guys would all be shocked at the amount of positive Billy Gunn feedback that I got after answering an email and feedback about why was Billy Gunn horrible. It was just way too many.
Bad timing. He's always blowing up. He doesn't seem to care.
I try to explain.
Sort of like what Brian wrote, as I recall.
He's good in tags, but he cannot carry a singles match by himself at all.
Yeah, they tried. You know, when they split up those New Age Outlaws and gave Billy Gunn the King of the Ring, I mean, it was like he was supposed to be a main eventer, right up there with Austin. Didn't quite get there.
Yeah. I think he blew with that Rock match, because that was one of Rock's worst matches that he had. It was the one with him where he had to kiss the girl's butt.
Yeah. Okay.
And stuff. And then also, I wanted to ask about. Have you guys had a chance to see that Beyond the Mat that I was talking about a couple weeks ago? I know Brian was joking about it earlier.
You mean the DVD portion?
No, not the DVD. The one I told you I had called about is just on videotape. It's a special.
Oh, the new videotape version? No.
Okay. I think you guys should really get this, because I think you guys would really love it, especially you, Brian, because you seem to enjoy that eye hanging out of the ligament. But the ligament.
Oh, that's right. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you would really love this tape. I think my friend bought it at like a Super Kmart. And like I say, you guys would really laugh. I don't want to say ass, but yeah, you guys would laugh your asses off of this tape. It's so funny. And also,
check that out.
Wondering, is there any chance that maybe you could get maybe like Scandal or Akbar on the show?
If I could find where he is, I would like to get him. Yeah. I don't know where he is these days.
Because I heard one guy ask about him on your show, and I went and I heard that interview, and it was really good. He gives a lot of like insight into the business, and he was telling like what the payoffs were for the Parade of Champions, and that Kamala was kind of pissed because he didn't get nowhere near as much as the Von Erichs. And
I bet he didn't.
Oh well, jeez.
He said that they made like something
he had a
like
gripe there.
They made something like $74,000 to $84,000 just on photos alone of the Von Erichs.
I was there that day, and that was an amazing. Believe me, that was an amazing day.
Yeah. I'm here in San Antonio, and they showed it on what do you call it?
They showed it closed circuit.
Yeah,
they showed closed circuit in San Antonio. Yeah.
Yeah, at the Freeman, and it was like halfway in the middle, so it was only like half the building that they sold tickets for. And I have never been to a more emotional show in my life, and it wasn't even live; it was on the closed circuit.
Yeah, that was the moment. There was a moment. It was right after Kerry Von Erich won the title from Ric Flair, where Fritz and Doris, which was Kerry's mother, are walking down the aisle, and then Kerry is walking down the aisle, and they meet like 3/4 of the way down the aisle and hug. It was actually one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in wrestling. It was just so. It was. You know, I mean, there are people that are at that show. I mean, like the magazine writers and stuff that all flew in and everything. And I remember after that show, I mean, nobody had ever seen. It was not a great wrestling show by any means, and the matches were too short, and it was 105 degrees out, and all these reasons why it should have been terrible. But whatever it was, there was something that show had that I'd never seen in American wrestling. I don't know. It was the right thing at the right result of the right match at the right time. You know, I mean, the pop when Kerry Von Erich beat Ric Flair was unbelievable.
Oh yeah, I mean, even in the Freeman, I mean, I've been to so many WWF shows where it's been sold out, and I've never heard it get so loud and for an ending of a match.
Yeah. Well, people have been waiting for it for years, and then, you know, you had the emotion of the brother dying and everything that played into it. Yeah. But, you know, I'll tell you what, if they had promoted that show well, because they did 32,000 legit in that building, I think if they had any kind of an undercard and promoted it well on TV, because they really didn't, they could have drawn 50,000 people. I mean, it was one of those things, it was kind of like they had the angle, and they didn't really take full advantage of the angle that they had, but even by not promoting it well, it was such a strong angle that it you know, at that time, in 1984, 32,000 people to a wrestling show was an incredible number. I have a few questions. Now that Linda wants a divorce, is there any chance of her using her power to give Shane the Raw time slot? No. It would be a good angle, but it ain't going to happen. What is the point of the WWF even having a light heavyweight title that never gets defended? Well, there certainly was no point last night. He didn't even bring the belt out.
When did he win that title, by the way? Was it on Heat?
It was on Heat, I don't know, a month ago maybe? It was before Mania.
God, he came out with the belt last night, and I went, I didn't even know this guy had the title.
Yeah. Never
somebody mentioned something I think it was last week. They go, why have Rhino squash your light heavyweight champion? And I thought to myself, it's Crash. He's not the light heavyweight champion. I thought it was still Dean Malenko.
He beat Malenko. Well, it shows how well they publicize it. What do you think of Flash, Rob Conway, and the guys from Shawn Michaels School that are in Memphis? Also could get Flash on the show. We had Flash on the show once before. I think Flash is really good. Rob Conway, he's all right. He's all right. Spanky and American Dragon are very good in MCW. They're the two best. Have you ever seen a British wrestler called Johnny Saint? He wrestled in the 70s and 80s. His wrestling style made Dean Malenko's chain wrestling look dated. I have heard of Johnny Saint. I know Johnny Saint was like the lightweight champion in England. Yeah, I would say in the 70s. But I never saw him wrestle. I want to comment on the violence against women issue. How come when Linda kicked Vince, people were not up in arms about promoting domestic violence? Is it that we see it's okay for a woman to kick a guy in the most sensitive part of his body? Actually, believe it or not, there's a total double standard, and it is. I don't know. Because China was doing. No one ever complained about that, but it also. The announcers never portrayed it as anything wrong, but whenever the male wrestlers beat up on the female wrestlers, they do portray it as something wrong. So it's both WWF and real life. So anyway, let's see. Is it safe to say if Crash is mixed up with Rhino and Kaientai and S.A. Rios are going to the new WCW? We don't know that. Although they may. But the light heavyweight title will be disbanded. It doesn't matter if it is or it isn't. Okay, the second NBC Live primetime show was Hogan and Savage against Boss Man and Akeem. Yeah, that was when Hogan and Savage turned on each other. It set up the Savage-Hogan WrestleMania match. That's right. And I don't know the rating of it offhand, but I think
what
it may
was the
have
finish then?
I think Savage walked out and Hogan was left with both of them and beat them both up and left them for dead.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Something like that. I don't remember offhand, but they did the big split because this was really good because the thing about that show that I remember the most, so this would have been in early 1989, was they did this angle where I think Savage did like a tope and hit Elizabeth. And I mean, she took a hell of a bump. She really did. So then they go backstage and Hogan is like hovering over Elizabeth and the camera goes on and Hogan goes, Tizime or something like that, which was the carnival for, give me a time cue, but they're already on the air. And Elizabeth's going like, are we on the air yet? And like, this is live. And it's going through on NBC. And then they go right into character. And it was the funniest thing in the world. So anyway, but Hogan and Savage still did a great buy rate, so it didn't really matter, did it? Let's see. This is from Andy Patrizio. It goes, I cannot imagine, this is about McLean and Russo. I cannot imagine this partnership lasting long. Well, if he beat 7 weeks, then they beat the old record. The WOW girls are mostly aspiring actresses, and they are not going to wreck their names in this town doing Russo's typical degrading sexist angles. Plus, you're right about touring. Half the wrestlers are either busy at personal training or want to be actresses, and they would never want to leave town. So any word on who the new sugar daddy is to keep this company afloat? Don't know. But
we'll know in September.
Yeah, if there is a September.
The new season.
If there is a September. Well, there will be September for us. I don't know about for them. Speaking of the 80s, they will call them...
That was very disturbing.
They should call the new WCW show Saturday Night's Main Event. They own the name.
It's going to be Nitro. Why would they have Shane McMahon show up in a limo with WCW
it's going to be Nitro.
And then Nitro listed as like the state?
Yep, you're right. This is some person who's mentioning the same thing. Can you recommend some UFC tapes that are easy enough to find in crappy suburbs with nothing but Blockbuster video stores? I'm trying to get into MMA, but I'm 40 miles away from any place that's cool.
Wait a second. Is he asking us to name tapes that might be at his local Blockbuster?
Yes, he is.
Why don't you go to the Blockbuster and look? How are we supposed to know?
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, what if Eric Bischoff buys enough stock in the WWF where he owns 51% of it and takes it over? Yeah, good luck. They only have 23% out to the public. Vince did not put that company up to the public with to give it any chance of anyone ever getting 51% of it and having his company, his family lose the company. I mean, they will never have more than 49% of that go public unless, they're going broke and they're forced into it. It's just not going to happen. Let's go to Curtis. Curtis, what's going on?
Hello?
Hey, Curtis.
Yeah. I was wondering, when is Paul Heyman going to still be in the WWF for a while?
Until they fire him.
Probably.
I hope he gets fired.
Or he quits. Or he quits, one or the other.
I hope he gets fired because he's annoying. He always, like, whenever an ECW wrestler comes out, he goes, Rhino, the last ECW champion, are just incredible.
The Mandy's, Rhino.
I know. Or every
I think
time,
there's
like,
a reason for all that.
I know, and
He's
he
trying to
keeps
protect his buddies.
He goes like, he like says the only CW you could stay around here is ECW. When when they were talking about the WCW thing, he's annoying. I swear if he would have like stayed a moment longer, like on the Raw, I would have just turned it off. Because you know when he was doing his own thing last night on Raw.
You mean a moment longer
before
alone?
JR came out.
Yeah, I mean till he came out. Because he was annoying. He was making fun of JR's, his disease. He was making fun of it last night.
I don't like that. But
was he making fun of that?
Yeah,
he squinched up his face when he did some and kind of talked out of the side of his mouth. Yeah, he did.
Okay.
I didn't like that, but since JR could tell him not to and he wouldn't, so I can't feel bad. I mean, I can not like it, but it's like I don't feel sorry for JR because it's what I mean. If he said don't make fun of him, I mean, I'm sure Heyman wouldn't do it.
Hey, what station is this show on? Because I got this number out of magazine.
This show that you're listening to right now?
The radio show?
Yeah, what station is it on?
It's not on a station. It's on IATA.com. Just go in.
I can hear the background of your house, kid. Are you listening to it?
No. I'm listening to a TV.
Okay.
So it's IATA.com.
Yeah, you know who they should get? You remember that ECW guy, Joel Gerdner?
Yeah, I remember.
He was real funny. I wish they'd get him instead of Paul Heyman.
He can't do those limericks on. He won't be able to do those limericks in the WWF though.
Oh
yeah. They would really get in trouble.
Maybe WCW at 11 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock. In the morning.
11 o'clock. Yeah, at 1 in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah. How come people thought what Stone Cold did to Lita was like women abuse or whatever?
Why did people think it was?
Yeah, I didn't think it was
abusing
like
a woman.
Yeah, but still, I thought that was funny when Triple H pedigreed her. I mean, I didn't think it was funny because it was against a woman. Just thought it was funny. I already knew that was
someone out.
Huh? Yeah.
Funny.
It's funny
I don't know if that was my emotion.
I already knew that Stone Cold was going to become a bad guy because some guy told me like a couple of days before WrestleMania it was going to happen.
He doesn't listen to the show.
Huh?
How old are you, Curtis?
I'm 13.
Okay. And you watched all of Raw last night?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, we're going to go to the next call.
All right.
Okay, let's go to Dave in Atlanta. Dave, what's going on?
Hey, Dave. How you doing?
Doing really good.
Excellent. And people wonder how many young folks can watch Raw neither. Oh, man. Got a few questions. I got a few questions for you. Number one, I was wondering, they said someone's going to be elevated. Why Linda McMahon? Hasn't she been elevated enough?
Hey, that's what they...
That wasn't their intent, but...
I was told it was going to be the Hardy Boys, but, I guess when it was over, people didn't see it, that actually happened.
That's a Buff and Luger elevation if I ever seen one. Good Lord.
Well, that's what I thought on Thursday when I watched SmackDown, when I was like, hey, it's going to be really big for the Hardy Boys, and I watched it, and I was like, I thought that was the way Scott Hall elevated Hector Garza to main event status.
Pretty much, yeah. A few questions for you. Number one, have any of the big names signed up with WCW so far?
No, none.
None? Okay.
Booker T hasn't even signed yet, so none of them, no.
Okay. My next question is this. I was watching one of the studio interviews with Buddy Landell today. I was just watching and listening to that. Any chance you think, how do you think he'd be in this capacity? I was thinking if they sent him down to Memphis Power Pro to help the guys with interviews and such, I mean, because when he's motivated and cleaned up, he is one of the better workers and interviews around. What do you think?
He's really out of shape, but that has nothing to do with interviews. It's an interesting concept. I don't know that they would. I don't know. I mean, he would have to sell themselves on it. Buddy's got a tough track record. Mm-hmm. But of course, that's his past too.
Well, Buddy could also, even if he's out of shape, he could still talk on the stick. And I mean,
yes,
with Bobby Eaton down there and Buddy, I mean, that'd be a good combination down there, I thought, for Memphis.
You know what? If anyone knows how to get a hold of Buddy, we got to get Buddy on the show because he will be a great.
Isn't he in Memphis Championship Wrestling though?
Buddy's not in Memphis Championship.
In the interview, he said he's on the net all the time and he does emails and all. I also found out that Skandar Akbar has a web page too.
Okay.
And the URL is www.maxpages.com/devastation.
Devastation Incorporated. He's still doing that. Oh no.
Yeah, that's and suppose this is authorized site. He did an interview with some other radio online. It was pretty good. And I remember, if I'm not mistaken.
I used to hate, like at the beginning when they first started Devastation Incorporated in World Class. This is like 82-ish. And it was the campiest thing, the way it started out. It was like just so funny because it was King Kong Bundy and he was going to find out who the boss was, which ended up being Akbar. But like years later, you know, when Akbar would just keep making comebacks and they'd call it Devastation Incorporated, it was just like, oh, God. It just like, that name just got so old and dated.
Like the NWO.
No, but this was like 7 years. NWO was only like 3 years. So it's like twice as bad.
And one other thing I was going to say about possible guests, Buddy Landell was at the top of my list because I thought he'd be just fantastic to get on there and everything.
Yeah, he's now on the top of mine, too. I got to find this guy.
I'll look around, so if I find a link to his site or something, I'll send you an email or something about that, too. I was also thinking about...
I his number somewhere.
You're more connected than I am, for sure.
Yeah.
I was thinking possibly, what about Jerry or Jeff Jarrett? Or any chance with them?
Jeff would have to be out of his contract. I would love to have Jeff Jarrett as a guest. He'd have to be out of his contract with WCW, so I think that's got about a year to go. Jerry obviously could do it. Jerry would be... I don't know that Jerry would do it, but... Really? I guess we could ask. I'll give Al the number and everything like that. But, you know, I mean, there's certainly... Jerry has no contractual prohibitions from doing this show. If he wants to do it, he can do it.
And one other thing, I was thinking...
Jerry Jarrett's a smart man.
Yes, very much. I was thinking also, if you're guest, a lot of the ones you don't think would be great turn out to be fabulous and everything. I mean, on paper, you think, you know, they might not be the best. I mean, just talking to friends of mine, we think, you know, the Z-Man, how great is he? Hey, he's one of the better ones you've ever had. Mm-hmm. But what do you think about these guys? Now, I don't know how they be, but what about New Jack, Conga the Barbarian, and Paul New? I talked to Paul New a while back in Georgia.
I haven't heard that name in years.
I think New Jack would be a funny interview, but I don't know if...
We were supposed to have him on once, and he no-showed.
Maybe like that one Vampiro interview that we had. Remember that one?
Yeah, it would be like that,
a little
actually.
Insane.
Yeah, that would be no, not like Vampiro. It would be like what's his name? Shaggy.
Oh, that's
Violent
right.
J. No, it was Violent J. It was Violent J. Sorry.
Insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you think there might be I mean, you know, I won't know about Conga the Barbarian, but he's been around for like 24 years or something. I mean, you know.
I have no idea. I've spoken very few words to him.
No one has. That's what I'd like to hear what he's got to say. Along with Paul New. I mean, he was pretty good when I sat down after an indie show about 7-8 years ago. And it was an interesting take. And, I mean, you know, I wouldn't have thought Max Payne would be as great as he was, but he was fantastic. And I just love the show.
I really like Max Payne a lot. That was a very fun show.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thanks a lot. I'm going to let y'all go. I appreciate y'all helping me out and answering all my questions.
Do you think when Spider-Man, the movie, comes out that Vince will take back Savage? Even if it's just for the press and nothing else. As far as it comes to Savage, if Savage is willing to come in at a very low price, Vince will take him. For a high price, no way. Have you heard of the TV show Wrestling with the Past in Canada? Yeah, I've heard of it. It's been airing on Saturday nights. It's part of an old documentary. I have not seen the tapes of it, though. But it's like they interview a lot of the old wrestlers, Pampero Firpo, Kowalski, Mad Dog, Carpentier, Don Leo Jonathan, those type of guys, talking about the old days of wrestling. Let's see. WWF had 3 primetime shows. Hogan and Andre with a double Hebner's angle. The Mega Powers explode with Akeem and the Boss Man against Hogan and Savage, where Hogan, it was revealed, was lusting after Elizabeth, which, by the way, that one did an 11.6 rating. The first one did a 15.2. And the third one was the Hogan versus Savage match with Buster Douglas as referee. It was supposed to be Tyson as referee, but he got knocked out in Japan like a week before, so they got Buster Douglas in as ref. And then Buster got knocked out Savage for the finish, or after the finish, I think it was. But it was that one did a 12.8 rating. So those were the 3 shows. Let's see. Do you know if WF has picked up David Flair as one of the 24 guys? He's not one of the 24 guys, but they have. This is not like an official contract being sent, but there has been word given that they will sign David if he wants to, which he will. to a developmental deal, but not to a major deal. So he'll probably end up at OVW. It's probably where he should end up. Linda McMahon having power back in the WWF doesn't make sense right now if she can't bring back The Rock from being suspended like fans would expect her to. Fans will be looking at bringing The Rock back as her first decision she should make to get at Vince right off the bat.
That's why they should have said he was injured.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Seriously.
Yeah, you're right. Who and where is Hakushi? Well, who is Kensuke Shinzaki is his name, and where is... He wrestled at the Osaka Dome show yesterday, but he's in Japan, and he works for Michinoku Pro, and he also works for a lot of the other groups as well. In that special, Macho Man walks out in the main event, and Hogan still kills Akeem and Boss Man, like you said, but they go to a locker room shot, and Hogan is telling Liz to do something about Savage, and then Savage attacks Hogan from behind, leaving Hogan laying. Okay.
Didn't he break the belt, too? Or was that another show?
What?
When he broke the belt?
I don't think it was that one.
Okay.
If Conan won't be allowed to work for XPW due to his contract, why were Chris Candido, Shane Helms, and Shannon Moore allowed to work indies? Every decision's different. There's no consistency to that. And Rey Mysterio Jr. allowed to work Mexico. He may have had that. Ray may have that in his contract. Doesn't Turner own the name Nitro because their Saturday Night movie is called Saturday Nitro? Yeah, but I'm sure that one of the things they bought was the right to use the name Nitro, being that it was on Shane McMahon's license plate. Let's see. Will Nitro air in Canada on TNN because we don't get Raw on TNN? I think that's up in the air. I don't know the answer to that. That's a good question. Let's go to Charles in California. Charles, what's up?
Hey, Dave. Hey, Brian. How you guys doing today?
Hey, very good.
Good. I just wanted to compliment you guys on doing a real good job. You guys are doing an excellent job on keeping the show going and keeping it interesting and entertaining despite the lack of wrestling news that seems to exist. Brian, by the way, I agree with you. I think if the public would have saw something that the likes of Flair Steamboat on that 15 rating, it would make a difference on public perception. Because I know it always did for me. I always looked at the WWF when I was younger as being more cartoonish and the NWA as being more serious. Quick questions. Actually, I have 3 questions, Dave. The first one is for you. I was watching a Freebirds compilation tape, and the beginning of the tape was extremely old. I can't date it exactly. It may be somewhere between 78 and 80, but I think it's the first time Michael Hayes breaks up from the team. And in the promo he cuts, he attributes it to Ole Anderson, and I was wondering if you knew the story on what happened with that.
Is this like a shoot interview?
No, it's not a shoot interview at all. It's
okay.
TV promo, TV storyline.
TV storyline. I remember when maybe Ole Anderson started teaming with Terry Gordy. I mean, I remember the Freebirds splitting in Atlanta. God, probably like 1980. I'm guessing.
This tape is probably that old.
And they did the feud in Atlanta, and then they got back together in Alabama like a year later. But I don't remember what the storyline was other than Hayes and Gordy turned on each other, and I don't even remember where Buddy fit in. If Buddy was even around. I just remember a Michael Hayes Terry Gordy feud for a while in Atlanta because they had that stupid baby bonnet match.
Yeah. It's the weirdest thing. I'm trying to, because I didn't know the storyline. I'm trying to find somebody who does know exactly what happened.
You know what? Terry Gordy ended up teaming with Jimmy Snuka against Michael Hayes and Otis Sistrunk and Michael Hayes and Kevin Von Erich.
Yeah.
Now so it was something with Snuka somehow.
Yeah. In the promo, he attributes it to Ole Anderson, though, and evidently there was some match that happened with the Freebirds and the Anderson brothers where the Andersons went over or something, but it made Hayes look like a goof and caused the breakup of the team. But I don't know exactly what happened. I'm trying to track down the story.
I don't remember that exactly. That may have been. I would have been watching it then, though, but I don't, because I remember the Freebirds breakup. But for some reason I don't remember it.
Okay. Secondly, this is concerning. I was listening to you guys earlier, and you guys made an excellent point with how you can link some of these stories to something that may be newsworthy and still pretty sensitive in the public eye. So I was wondering if WWFE is part of their creative team, do they have people that are specifically in charge of keeping track of national news stories and even local news stories for the places and the arenas that they're going to play, to know which stories they can actually capitalize on and which ones they should stay far away from?
I don't think so. I've never
I don't
heard
think someone
of
has that job, but they always seem to know. Like, whenever they do a promo, like Kurt Angle always knows what the hell's going on in the town and everything like that. So
Well, they may have someone
who
just
get like
knows.
a newspaper and look through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, I know just that Jim Ross used to because remember they're on the road every day. That Jim Ross would just go through USA Today and look at the and just remember like what city they're going to and kind of throw in you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And lastly, concerning the Austin turn, I'm noticing, and maybe it's just me, but there are still certain things that he does that still kind of indicate babyface. And I know from
when he stands in the corner and raises his hand, he's begging people
and the
to cheer
beer
for him
drinking.
still, yeah.
And the biggest one to me, Dave, is still when you hear that breaking and entering, which goes all the way back to the Brian Pillman angle where he broke into Pillman's house and beat him up, and Brian had the 9mm. That breaking glass, to me, that psychologically tells the fans, pop, babyface pop. And it seems like you have to take some of those things away and then preserve them, and he starts to reintroduce them gradually with Vince McMahon objecting as he starts to turn face again.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. But you're right, the breaking
and
and
he needs
entering...
to get rid of that celebration before the match. I mean, why? Why does he do it?
Yeah,
because everyone wants to take a picture of him?
Yeah, the entire I Conquer thing. I mean, those are the types of things we used to look at that Hall and Nash would do when they were supposed to be heels, but, they were still getting over his faces.
Yeah.
And continuing to do them when they were told not to, remember?
Yes, exactly. Well, that's about it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for taking my call. I'm really enjoying the show, and just keep doing the good work.
Thanks very much.
Okay, guys. Bye-bye.
Okay, we'll go to Chris in Boston. Chris, what's up?
How you doing? Dave, I was actually at Raw last night in Boston, and just have one question. There was actually a couple of things that I was actually curious about, but why does the WWF technically always use, like for example, at the beginning of the program, instead of doing a promo, they decided to do, like, the whole SmackDown interview with Jim Ross and Stone Cold? I mean, the arena was just constantly booing the whole thing. And that took about 20 minutes. You figured they cut it into certain, points, but they never did that. I mean, do you find that being a constant occurrence as far as
it's very rare.
Yeah,
it's very rare. They've only done it twice.
They've been doing it a lot lately, though.
They did it. I mean, they did. It started after Kurt Angle. It was literally about 15 to 20 minutes, and that was the most horrific thing because people were getting up, leaving. Not leaving the arena, but, getting something to eat. I'm like, it was just a waste of time. But here's one question I was wondering. When Kurt Angle came out, they made reference to a couple of Red Sox players. Did they say at all during the TV, or did they show it that Johnny Ruiz was just sitting right next to them?
I didn't hear his name mentioned. I just saw Tim Wakefield.
Tim Wakefield, yeah, cause we were just wondering about that because Johnny Ruiz was right next to him, sitting down, and I'll tell you the honest truth, the biggest pop out of the night was out of him. The moment he came into the arena, they kept on just popping him, and during certain matches, they were just constantly going to Ruiz and just totally avoiding matches like Benoit and Jericho and things like that, which was kind of amazing. So I figured maybe they would make any kind of reference to him because, noticing that there was people going towards him.
I don't remember them mentioning his name.
Yeah, he was right there through the whole thing.
And why can't they do something like, if they're going to have a 20-minute segment that they know is going to be something
they should have
why don't they put a match in the ring?
Have a match in the building. Yeah, but they want the fans in the building. They think that the interview segment's more important. The thing is, I was
background.
I was thinking about this about 75 minutes into that show, and I'm going I'm really glad that I didn't pay $35 for this one. I would feel real bad about, because it was when you pay for a wrestling show, contrary to what a lot of people think, I think most people actually want to see some wrestling matches during that time.
Yeah. Well, we had some decent seats, and now you're sitting there, you're waiting for your typical Triple H 20-minute promo. I'd rather have that. Yeah, as opposed to watching, something.
At least the guy's right there in front of you.
Exactly. It was just a completely waste of time. But here's one last question I wanted to ask you about last night. Being at the whole Linda McMahon thing with, her wanting a divorce, was that the original angle that they were planning, or was there supposed to be a Shawn Michaels / Mick Foley type of surprise?
I don't know that they I don't know if they even have original things.
Because I was like,
because you know it's like
going week by week. I
think it's kind of like, well, we're going to do this. Well, I mean, I think that this thing where she comes back and asks for a divorce, yeah, they probably had that planned some time back. But it's like, okay, now how do we get out of it? They may not have planned that, because I keep thinking of like the. When they first did the Stephanie McMahon Triple H wedding, I'm sure that they didn't have them, the idea that they were going to be married for the next 15 years on TV. I think they just, they just got there, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, golly, neither of them could actually break up with the other one.
But
no one's allowed to dump the other one. And when they started that Kurt Angle thing, obviously they must have had a better idea how to get out of it than they did, because they got nothing. That was really bad.
I want to make one last note from the last caller, what he had mentioned about Stone Cold, getting, the pops that he's getting. The thing is that the funny thing is, right when, Raw went off the air, this guy did everything that you could possibly imagine to get heat from people. Like, he went to Jim Ross and tried to, he flipped his hat, he would go to Lillian Garcia, supposedly, give her the finger or whatever, pull a bail. Everything the guy was doing, every single thing he was getting a pop at. And, trying to play with the crowd, try to gain some heat that way. So the last thing I just was wondering was, like, if this continues, but being that The Rock is out at the moment, I mean, will they be forced to bring him back as a face, or?
Can they keep him heel long enough before Rock actually gets back and they do a payoff, or will it be like WCW when they set up this big angle and by the time the guy comes back, they've already turned the guy 6 times and the angle's dead?
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope they can at least have Rock come back with Austin and at least, I mean, I'm sure that they won't. I'm sure they won't turn because they're going to turn Helmsley. So they got all this stuff lined up for Austin for months and months. I think they're pretty much committed.
If it is an Undertaker, if it is that they bring Undertaker to a main event status, it just seems to me, I don't know, maybe in your eyes it's a little bit different, but it seems like when they teamed the Undertaker with Kane, it seems too much that they've made the Undertaker more of a mid-card type of wrestler now. I mean, I don't know if I'm,
Yeah, they can still bring him back though. He's got enough credibility. I mean, it's the thing with Undertaker and Austin that I don't like is if you remember going back, whatever it was, a couple of years ago, it seemed like they main evented on every pay-per-view, and it was so many main events.
And the matches got worse and worse.
Yeah.
And matches got worse. And when it was over, when it was over, it was one of those things where, like how some feuds like Flair and Steamboat, whenever they would come back to it, you kind of get excited. This is one where it's like, I never want to see him again. I don't care how well they mix it up or shoot a new angle. It's like, I've seen every Austin Undertaker match that I ever want to see for an entire lifetime.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. But anyway, I figured I'd let you guys go, but I wanted just to kind of get that point across from, like, the interior part of the arena that time. But it was just, I mean, just to make my point clear, it just seems like McMahon's got to really, really do something to the Austin angle, because they tried to do it last night, and there was, like, so much stuff being thrown into the ring last night. I don't know if you got to see that on TV.
I think it started, like, after the TV went off. But
Triple H got pegged up the head about 2 or 3 times. Stone Cold did, where it seemed like they got, legitimately pissed off the crowd. But they kept them standing there, but it was just right when the arena heard that it was going to be a 6-man tag, and they heard, Stone Cold, Triple H, and Stephanie, and once they heard Hardy Boys, all you heard out of the arena was some cheers, some pops, but a lot of sighs. So, I don't know, hopefully they can just kind of up the ante a little bit next week. So, thanks a lot, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much, and we are totally out of time. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 with Carl Elliott Stern. E-Yada now.